Hey everybody, it's Tim Heidecker. You know me, Tim and Eric, Bridesmaids, and Fantastic Four. I'd like to personally invite you to listen to Office Hours Live with me and my co-hosts, DJ Doug Pound.
Hello.
And Vic Berger.
Howdy.
Every week we bring you laughs, fun, games, and lots of other surprises. It's live. We take your Zoom calls.
Music.
We love having fun. Excuse me?
Songs. Vic said something.
Songs.
Music.
I like having fun. I like to laugh. I like to meet people who can make me laugh. Please subscribe now.
Welcome to Mom and Dad Are Fighting, Slate's parenting podcast for Thursday, March 2nd, the But I Want Mom edition. I'm Jamilah Lemieux, a writer, contributor to Slate's Care and Feeding parenting column, and mom to Naima, who's a few weeks from being 10, and we live in Los Angeles.
I'm Elizabeth Newcamp. I write the homeschool and family travel blog, Dutch Goose. I'm the mom of 3 littles, Henry, who's 10, Oliver, who's 8, and Teddy, who's 6. We live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, but I'm currently just down the street from Jamilah in Los Angeles.
I'm Lizzie O'Leary. I'm the host of the Slate podcast, What Next TBD, and I'm mom to Sam, who is 2.5, and we live in Brooklyn.
Lizzie, we're so happy to have you here.
I'm psyched.
Listeners who follow you on Twitter already know, but you share some of the funniest glimpses into parenthood, whether it be a toddler refusing copious amounts of bananas because they're wrong, trying to locate a specific lost frog stuffy, or simply barf out of car seat. How? Which is a question that I'm sure has haunted most of us, at least on one occasion. But are you ready to tackle another classic parenting conundrum?
Absolutely, I am ready. I mean, I hope I'm ready, but I'll try.
That's what we hope every week, and that's good, because today we've got a question about a kid who won't stop clinging to his mom. Things are getting worse. He's practically become her shadow. Can they break this habit before his new sibling is born in April? And if you're sticking around for Slate Plus, we will be digging into our mailbag. Here's a sneak peek of what you'll hear if you are a Slate Plus subscriber. Yeah, a lot of parenting sucks. Like, a lot of it is not good.
The rest of it is just really hard.
The rest of it is just really hard.
The rest of it is just waiting until you barf.
And then wondering how to get it out of the car seat, right?
Wondering how to get out the car seat.
I got in the shower with it.
Oh.
I washed all the parts that were machine washable, and then I got in the shower with the frame.
I mean, that sounds like a solution to me. I bet it was nice and clean. Slate Plus is the best way to support the show. Besides our undying appreciation, you get a whole bonus segment from us every week, 0 ads on any Slate podcast, and unlimited access to the Slate website. Sign up now at slate.com/momanddadplus. All right, we're going to dive into our week in parenting, but not before a quick break. We'll see you back here in a second.
It's hard to stick with working out. I have tried for years a number of different things. I joined a gym, I joined a tennis league. None of them stuck until, truly, honestly, I started Peloton. I don't have the Peloton bike. I don't have the Peloton treadmill, but still, I am able to use it multiple times a week doing Peloton's incredible floor exercises. Peloton instructors have a variety of different training backgrounds and styles of motivation that work for people of all fitness levels. They can get you moving, whether it's a 10-minute power walk or a 30-minute endurance ride. Just this morning, I was thinking about doing a strength training workout, but my shoulder was kind of tender, so instead I, at the last minute, decided to do just a 10-minute yoga class, and I'm feeling better already. Try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.
Calling all parents of kids 3 to 12. Here's a kids app you'll want to hear about. Pinna. It's screen-free audio entertainment just for kids. They've got tons of podcasts and audiobooks, including some well-known stories and so many originals not available anywhere else. The age-appropriate content allows you to feel good about what your kids are listening to. Plus, they will be hooked within minutes and begging to listen again and again. It makes life as a parent not only easier, but more enriched. Whether you're listening as a family or your kids are listening on their own, they are sure to enjoy the wide-ranging variety of stories Pinna has to offer. Right now, our listeners can get 1 year of Penna at $19.99 for a full access annual subscription, a savings of over $50. Just head to penna.fm/promo to sign up and use code MOMANDDAD at checkout. That's PINNA.FM/promo. Okay, Elizabeth, why don't you start us out? Do you have a triumph or a fail this week?
Okay, I am taking a triumph, but it's of course, sort of Henry's triumph and sort of actually the triumph of the system as a whole, which I feel like I was just so surprised and delighted by. So last Thursday, there was like an 11 o'clock basketball game at the Air Force Academy. It was women's basketball. We decided that we would go. We got a bunch of other homeschool friends and went to this basketball game. And of course, there were just not a lot of people there. So
You're telling me that women's Air Force basketball at 11 o'clock?
At 11?
I know. Shocking, right?
The hottest ticket in town.
So we of course sat right up front, and Jeff came over from work, which is super fun. And he has a bunch of students that play and a couple students that are on the cheer team. So the kids were getting to like meet these players before the game. And of course they're amazing, but they came up and asked like, hey, would one of your kids want to participate in one of those things they do up on the big screen during one of the breaks? And Henry was like, okay. And he volunteered. And they said, listen, no matter what happens, you're going to walk away with a prize pack. We're going to come back and get you. We were like, okay, cool. And they come to get him and they're like, he needs to come by himself. He's 10. It's fine, right? He looks a little kind of apprehensive. And right before he goes, he says like, what if I screw this up and everybody laughs at me? And I was like, honey, it's going to be totally fine. We're going to be cheering for you, right? So they take him away. He has to wait for like 15 minutes or something with this guy with these headphones on. We can kind of see him, but down on the court, they bring him out to play this game. And it's that game where they put like cup, something, it's a basketball under a cup on the screen and the cups are all moving around and you have to know which one it's under. And
oh my God, he's playing 3-card Monty.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody's cheering, all the people are like cheering and it stops and we all think it's like under number 3 and we're like trying to yell at him. And he ends up picking number 3, which is the right one. And he gets this prize and he's so excited. He gives a big smile. He's happy. They give him the prize pack. The like Falcon guy is there. But he comes back to the seat and he said, right before they said, hey, we don't want you to have to be embarrassed. So it's going to be under number 3. And I just thought, what a nice thing to do. Like, I understand that this is a game, and I assume when adults go up and play at other games, they are not telling them the right answer. But to clearly identify that this is like a 10-year-old kid who is very worried that in front of his friends and in front of these other kids that he would seem stupid, or that people would say that. I feel like that was more the apprehension rather than like, I'm in front of all these people. What if I do something dumb? He was very worried about like, what if I just lose track of the ball, or what if I don't know? Some of the other games were like trivia questions about basketball, and he's like, I just don't know much about basketball. So anyway, I just felt proud that they had thought about kind of the emotional ramifications for asking a child to be on a screen, and beyond the prize, like what happens if he gets it wrong. I don't know. Not that I'm not for kids failing, but it just seems like in this, like he was doing them a favor. There was no one else there to say yes.
I feel like that's the kind of thing, like, had it gone the other way, it's like he's 30 and saying, I just can't forget that time when I was so embarrassed on the big screen.
So I was just very proud that I don't know that this man who came to get him was the one who thought about that, but some adult somewhere thought, listen, when we're dealing with kids, we should really make sure that they succeed in this opportunity, right? And of course, it was so much cuter because he like jumped up and down and he was so excited, even though he knew the answer beforehand.
That is really cute. Shout out to some adult.
To some adult, yeah.
Someone who did that. It was, that's really sweet.
Lizzie, what about you?
So I have, I think, a triumph for Sam and a bit of a fail for me. So Sam is 2.5, and my husband and I have, kind of thought a lot about like, okay, how do we teach this child bodily autonomy and some things about consent, but, in a way that's age appropriate. And he also goes to preschool 2 days a week, so he gets some of that there. And I should say, like, I'm sort of gross. Like, I groom people like a monkey if I love them, right? Like, if your child has a booger or some earwax or whatever, like I'm like, oh, let me do this to my own child, or let me just like go fix my husband's hair, drives him crazy. So I was sitting with Sam and sort of was like, oh, there's a piece of wax and I could just get it. And I kind of went for it. And he said, Mommy, that is my body. And I was so proud of him. I was like, I totally did the wrong thing. I went in there without asking. And he looked at me with this like very serious little 2-year-old face. That's my body. I was like, yes, it is, buddy. It is your body. And you know what? Good for you. Like, you get to decide what happens with your body. I was exceptionally proud of him.
I think that's great. I always say it's okay to make mistakes as a parent. It's how we deal with it, right?
I was like, I should have asked you, Sam, and I didn't.
Yes, and you gave him the opportunity in a very safe environment to tell you that. I don't know. Yeah. I think that's great. Not that you should do it on purpose, but when it happens, and then you apologize. Like, you showed him what it should look like when a child asserts consent in a scenario, right? That it doesn't have to be a big deal. It can just be, you're absolutely right. I'm so sorry. I will make sure to ask next time.
Good job, 2-year-old Sam.
Very good. Which means he's been parented well.
That's right.
Well, or preschooled well. That's the other option.
Or preschooled well. Well, my fail is wrapped up in a 3-way fail where the hosts of Mom and Dad Are Fighting attempted to all get together in LA yesterday, and it did not work. Zach and Elizabeth and their families are both in town, and we thought it would be nice if we could just, at least briefly see each other. Everybody's schedules were crazy.
Like, the weather's bad. It's just
the weather's bad, but we thought we found a time to make it work. And then Elizabeth's flight is delayed, so they're not even on the plane when we're supposed to go meet. Zach realizes that the drive that he'd committed to was like a crazy distance and that he had to be back like way on the other side of town, not long after we were supposed to be meeting up. And I, who showed up to school at 3:00 to pick Naima up so we could have this outing. And of course, I get the text from Zach saying, okay, I don't think we're going to make this work right before I get to Naima's school. So I'm like, oh, fuck, because I've had her miss after school. So now what are we going to do? We've just got these 3 additional hours. And when I get to the school, they're like, oh, Naima's in tutoring. And I thought the tutoring, she's been doing tutoring 3 times a week. And I thought it ended last week, but it ends this week. So I had to sit in the parking lot for an hour and wait for her to be tutored.
I can't tell if that's really annoying or like some nice alone time.
That was really annoying. I ended up doing some writing on my phone, but it would have been nicer to be seated at my desk or on the couch with my laptop as opposed to writing on my phone for an hour. But, we tried.
The texts were just like, it was like, I kept holding out hope the plane would take off. And finally, Jamilah's like, okay, here's what's happening. I'm like, guys, I'm not even on the plane.
Ugh.
And I actually the last message I sent is like, send me a cute picture. And I land and Jamilah's like, we did not meet up.
We did not meet up. And it's such a fun, strange coincidence that you all are both here.
I know. We're going to try again.
We're going to try.
I'm extremely impressed that you were trying to coordinate 3 families meeting up, honestly. Good for you.
That is a good point.
It felt actually appropriate.
It did.
Family, all of the normal things that hung us up for this.
Yep. I felt relieved that it hadn't worked out for us either, because I was like, oh man, I was so annoyed. And then I was like, so basically they could have been there and I would have been like, well, Naima's in tutoring. Or I would have had to pull her out of tutoring, which I would have felt terrible about doing. So there's that.
We're all equally at fault.
Yes. Well, on that note, we're going to take another quick break and see you back here in a second for our listener question. Millions of Americans experience thinning hair. It's more than common. It's normal. But it's not openly talked about, especially amongst women. Going through it can feel lonely and frustrating. It's time to change the conversation and join the thousands of women who are standing up for their strands with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting the 5 root causes of thinning: stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, and metabolism through whole body health. You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and entering the promo code MOMANDDAD to save $15 off your first month's subscription. This is their best offer anywhere and is only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, free shipping on every order. Get $15 off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code MOMANDDAD.
This episode is brought to you by The Adventures of Cairo. Meet Cairo. He's a curious and friendly 8-year-old who's navigating life and school in the big city, with a little help from his parents, his big brother, and his friends. And even though being a kid is hard work sometimes, you can have a lot of fun learning along the way. From Wondery, The Adventures of Cairo is a podcast that brings you stories for the entire family about kindness, courage, and responsibility. In the episode Black is Beautiful, Cairo is hitting the road with his dad and grandpa to visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. If you're thinking not many 8-year-olds dream of spending the entire day in a museum, you'd be right. But Cairo quickly learns this trip is different and discovers there's much more to Black history than he realized. Each episode of the show is centered around Cairo learning a new skill. The podcast focuses on relatable short stories containing good, simple lessons for younger kids to learn and implement. Follow The Adventures of Cairo wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen ad-free on the Amazon Music or Wondery app. This episode is brought to you by KiwiCo. I love a good family game night. We found that we can achieve that same family spark completing a KiwiCo box. We recently completed a felt succulent garden as a family. The kit comes with everything you need in it, which I love. There's no asking if I bought purple felt and did I buy the green felt. Like, everything we need is in there. The directions are easy to follow. All of the prep work is done. You guys, these are all the things that I stay up late doing, and KiwiCo just made sure it was all in the box so that we could complete the project. Redefine learning with play. Explore hands-on projects that build creative confidence and problem-solving skills with KiwiCo. Get 50% off your first month plus free shipping at any crate line. Get 50% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line at kiwico.com/momanddad. That's 50% off your first month at kiwico.com/momanddad.
All right, we're back and ready to hear our question.
Dear Mom and Dad, my husband and I have 2 boys, ages 2 and 5, and I'm due with our 3rd in April. Lately, we've been really struggling with mommy preference and attachment issues with our 2-year-old. He's been super clingy since birth, always wanting me to hold him and getting upset when I left the room. He's what older generations might call a stubborn baby. He just cried nonstop for weeks when our nanny first started, and our multiple attempts at sleep training resulted in hours and hours of screaming over many, many weeks. Things did get better over time. He happily went to nursery school each day. He accepted my husband doing bedtime routines or comforting him when he woke up in the night. But over the last 2 months, things have gotten out of control. He follows me around all day. He says he hates Daddy even when they're playing fun games together. He screams for hours when my husband handles bedtime or wake-ups, or even when he eventually ends up in bed with me, he wakes up multiple times in the night calling out for me. I know this backslide is likely related to the baby's near arrival, but I just don't know what to do anymore. I'm exhausted from his needs, my husband is exhausted from getting yelled at constantly, and we have 2 months before a newborn makes this all worse. My husband thinks we just need to be tough with him and let him cry, particularly on the nights when it's Daddy's turn for bedtime. He believes that he'll eventually learn to accept his fate. I'm usually okay with letting him cry for 30 to 45 minutes, knowing that he's with his dad and things should be fine. But when it gets to over an hour of hearing him scream for his mama, I just give in. How do I escape this child and get him to accept his loving father? Signed, why are you so obsessed with me?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, God. It's like I'm having a physical reaction to hearing this letter. It's just like, particularly the idea of just hearing him scream for his mama. It's so hard.
For an hour?
An hour. Oh. Okay, I realize that I'm new here, but I've thought about this one a lot, and I like wrote down many thoughts. I think the first thing is like, this is hard, and it's like they're not doing something wrong. It's just hard. It's okay for it to be really hard. That said, I have 2 or 3 thoughts. One is that he's 2, and in my own life, we're going through a big, like, mommy, go away. Don't want you here. Only daddy. Like, okay, fine. You're 2. Like, your job is to figure out what degree of independence you have, etc. Part of this is probably his personality, and that's just who he is. And then part of this is obviously the baby. I think, first and foremost, he just needs to be reassured, and I'm sure they're doing this, that they love him no matter what, that her husband loves him no matter what. Like, there's so much transition going on that the sort of, we will always love you. I love you when you're mad at me. I love you when you tell me to go away. All of those things are important. But then the part of the letter that like really stuck with me is the idea that things did get better. So like, I wonder if practicing some things, like a small bore practice might be helpful. Like 5 minutes of one-on-one time with mommy or mama, however, whatever name they use. Maybe they set a timer or whatever, and like you just get that really undivided attention. I don't know. That was like kind of what I'm thinking of, like because it sounds like he's keying in on uncertainty, emotional uncertainty, the uncertainty of like who's going to do what in his life, and that like little practice periods of certainty might be helpful. And I guess the last thing I want to say is that I'm not in any way like blaming. I'm actually empathizing with the letter writer. But we were just visiting some relatives in Canada, and one of them is a family doctor, and he, sees a lot of newborns now, but he also used to see kids kind of from pregnancy through their adolescence. And my husband and I were getting really stressed about something with Sam. And I saw David like take his hands and kind of pull them down in this just like lower the temperature and exhale motion. And it was like, oh, right. We actually have to work on our own emotional regulation in these moments when it's really, really, really hard. And I kind of wanted to just like send that out to the parents. Like, it is hard, and you get to like have that moment of breathing and trying to take the temperature down for yourself too.
I think that's really sound advice. And one of the things I had written down kind of on that same vein is spending time to empathize with the child that is going through this and validating those feelings of wanting to be with mom or having this preference for one parent because of the way they make you feel or that safety net. And I think specifically dad can do that, to say, I know you really want to be with mom. I really love being with mom too. What are some of the things that make being with mom so nice, right? So empathizing for that. We struggled a lot with this actually with each incoming baby. And one of the things that Jeff did really well is that he would make he and whatever child, didn't want to be with him, a team to do something nice for me. So it was like, this is a way we can help mommy and we can make her feel good, or we can make her feel this way. And in fact, my youngest one and him make coffee for me together in the morning still, because in the mornings, I tend to be the parent that deals with stuff kind of later at night. Jeff is not a late night person, but as a result, I am not a morning person. He is the one that gets up with our early risers. And one of the ways he dealt with that is that he made it kind of Teddy's job to make my coffee. And that's something they do together, so that when I get up, they've done that. And Teddy wants to come and be with me in the morning, but this is the thing they do instead of that. So if there's any way that you can have something you're working on together, or like, can we do everything up to the last minute cuddle before bed together? And then mom comes in and does that last cuddle, that last tuck in. Like, oh, let's get brushed and in our pajamas so that mom has more time to do the cuddle part, the part that maybe they're looking for right before bed. It also sounds like maybe they're switching off nights or jobs. And I think at this age,
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it can be really hard for a kid to know or to think, if I throw enough of a fit or if I do this, maybe I can get the other one to do it, right? So if there's any way that like every night dad can do the same jobs and every night mom can do the same jobs, if that's possible, that may help. Because again, I think you mentioned like taking away that uncertainty and also knowing that the mom time is coming, or I guess if it's earlier on, like has already happened. The other thing that really helped us when we've gone through this is for me to just be gone, that there's essentially no option. So to take, particularly in the days just before I had Teddy, I would take like a walk or a time away from the family when all this chaos was going on. No amount of screaming was going to bring me back from a walk or being at a friend's. So I don't know if any of those can kind of help just how you deal with the routine. I do think it'll pass. I mean, I don't know a lot of people with older kids who are still,
That's the last thing I have written down here. Also, it will pass.
That doesn't ever help you in the moment.
I know.
Jamilah, what do you think?
I wouldn't be myself if I didn't suggest this. Anybody who's been listening to Mom and Dad Are Fighting knows I am the therapy advocate, and you all have a nanny, so I'm assuming you all are people of some means. And if you could, I know it may seem a little crazy for a 2-year-old, but it seems like your son is dealing with some serious separation anxiety. For some reason, he's worried that you're not going to be around, that you're going to be gone, and a therapist could help you get some answers as to why that is, and to help reassure him. At this age, therapy is something that you would be involved in as well. So it would be the two of you together, primarily through play in most instances. In my experience with very little people in therapy, I looked this up because I was like, can a 2-year-old go to therapy? My first therapy experience was as a preschooler. So I had to have been about 3. It was a school psychologist, but everyone taught to her. And my mom and I both had serious separation anxiety issues. And so I would go talk to her on a weekly basis, and it was really helpful for me. So I think that that's something that you should consider. And I think that as far as letting him cry it out, I think, it's so painful. It's so painful. It's the worst, I think that even when it's Daddy's turn for bedtime, Mommy should still be the last thing he sees before he goes to bed. I think
I'm with you guys on that.
You can have Dad do the primary work of preparing him for bed while still allowing you to be to be part of that ritual. And so, even if that means that you get to go sit down and have a cup of tea and relax, put your feet up while Dad does bath time, and he may fuss and cry through that, but remind him, like, Mommy's going to be in here to tuck you in. Mommy's going to kiss you goodnight. You'll see Mommy before you go to sleep.
That's how we do it in our family. And I don't know. I really love it. Like it allows us each to have different touch points, I think.
No, I agree. I think that's a great read on it on dealing with some of this as separation anxiety too. And there's a lot more resources out there too if what you want is something to look for both in therapy or just like you're wondering, how do I Google this? Like, what are other people doing? Lizzie, have you had any separation anxiety issues with your little one?
We've had some. This is like where I'm like, I just feel like I'm like jinxing myself by saying this out loud.
No.
He's a pretty easygoing kid.
Yeah.
Like he was an easygoing baby. He's a pretty easygoing kid. I see this because I also spend a lot of time with my brother and his 2 kids.
Yeah.
Who are 4 and 18 months. I think at least with Sam, he's a kid who does really well with expectation setting. Mm-hmm. Like even when it is something that's hard for him, even when it involves a lot of crying, which is rare.
Yeah.
Like I can count on one hand the number of times it's been like, Sam's been crying for 10 minutes because we left and went out to dinner. Giving him a little bit of an appeal to his intellect actually is helpful because he's beyond the part of like, you're just going to lie here for 25 minutes and we're going to let you fuss.
Yeah.
And back to like, you are safe. I love you. Daddy loves you. Here you are with your tiger, which he calls Daniel. You and Daniel are tucked in, and I think you can do this. It's time for sleeping.
We hope that you all are able to get some resolution for this soon and that you have some peace, particularly before the new little one comes. If you want to let us know what happens next, feel free to send us another email at momanddad@slate.com or send us a voicemail at 646-357-9318. That is it for our show. We'll be back in your feed on Monday. Lizzie will be joining us for an interesting episode about toddler leashes. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so it'll automatically pop into your feed. Make things easier on yourselves, listeners. We beg of you. This episode of Mom and Dad Are Fighting is produced by Rosemary Belson and Mara Curry. Alicia Montgomery is VP of Slate Audio. For Elizabeth Newcamp and Lizzie O'Leary, the all Elizabeth edition, I'm Jamilah Lemieux. Thank you for listening.
It's hard to stick with working out, but with a variety of products and classes, Peloton makes finding the motivation easy. Peloton has the best playlists and tons of different music genres. Whether you're in the mood for a 90s pop ride or a soulful power walk, Peloton's got you covered. And whether you exercise daily or you're new to working out, Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. Try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial. It's hard to stick with working out, but with a variety of products and classes, Peloton makes finding the motivation easy. Peloton has the best playlists and tons of different music genres. Whether you're in the mood for a 90s pop ride or a soulful power walk, Peloton's got you covered. And whether you exercise daily or you're new to working out, Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. Try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.